Joining me now is a man that I am so incredibly pumped to talk to.
Yeah.
Okay? Just yesterday, this man was announced as the new offensive coordinator for the University of Louisiana Monroe. I, to be completely transparent, thought he would be up for a big-time job after what he did at Ole Miss 2 years ago. But turns out the University of Louisiana Monroe team has an absolute savage coming down to run their offense. This man was my college coach. He was the one who signed me to a scholarship and get my education paid for. Education there, but I got a chance to ride the coattails of some great teams to some magical moments. And to be honest, this man, in the moment that I knew him, I didn't fully understand him. But as I've grown older, can't help but have the ultimate respect for this dude. Ladies and gentlemen, Coach Rich Rodriguez.
Yeah, let's go, Coach.
What's up? For the brand, my Matt.
How are you doing?
This will be entertaining for sure. We want to tell some. I heard you do a pretty good Rich Rod impersonation.
Well, you've heard it before, Coach. You have heard it. Now listen, you know that I'd be able to do that. Those post-training camp gong shows, we'd bring the fucking house down, Coach. You see?
Oh, good. Well, now that I saw you cuss, I know this is not PG rated. You're full of shit, more than half the time. But we're gonna get this before we get anything started. Let's get it straightened out about Pat McAfee. I've heard this Darrelle Revis punt return thing. I do remember that meeting, and I wore out that laser, and it wasn't just you that missed the tackle and was lazy and loafing on that play. There were about 10 other guys. But that was so uncharacteristic of Pat McAfee because you're like, this guy's not just a specialist. I mean, this guy can play linebacker. I told everybody we had games, and this guy's the best punter, the kicker. He can play a lot of positions. And lo and behold, we have an opportunity to make a tackle against Darrelle Revis on national TV. And what did he do? He shit right down his leg. Right down there. But no, I'm so proud of you. You're doing great. So for everybody, and here's my son Rhett will remind me of. He said, "I know you told Pat stories." I said, "Well, remind me some." He said, every time we'd have picture day or media day, Pat would have some kind of crazy new hairdo, some kind of bullshit on his head, and I would say, "Pat, can you not just be the freaking punter? Why you got to do all this other shit? Just be the freaking punter."
Coach. Hilarious think. I was thinking about this morning. Okay, now that by the way, there's media day right there. Now that I've kind of, because going into that West Virginia team, that was my first time in the football environment, right? Because I played soccer. I didn't go to practice in high school football. I would only show up on like Friday nights or whatever. And that was my first time in the football environment. And I just acted like how I would act in regular life. Now that I've met like a lot of kickers and punters, you know what I mean? You guys had to have some hilarious conversations about like, hey, this kicker we got is a fucking asshole. There had to be some. I am very different than a lot of other kickers and punters, and I now realize
You're
that.
just different, period. But that's okay.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
But the truth is, like talent-wise, I mean, I love your personality, and you're. I know I'm preaching to the choir, but your competitiveness and your want to be the best was unmatched by anybody, not just in a special position. But I've always said this. I remember the first time I saw you in person kick and punt. I said, you don't have to see it. You can hear it. The best punters and kickers, you can hear them. And that was the case with you for sure.
Well, I appreciate that. That means a lot. You gave me an opportunity when many others didn't. And now that I'm, reading that you're going to the University of Louisiana Monroe after a year off, the only thing I wonder, especially because you got this Hard Edge podcast, okay, and it's like a family, you got a good family, got a good puck. Have you lost are you going to be soft down there? Are you soft?
Oh, I'm not. No, I better be hard edge here, right? We got some work to do, but it's a very unique opportunity. It's, my son who's got 2 years, he graduated with a 4.some GPA with 2 years of eligibility left.
Congrats,
was looking for maybe a place to go. And a friend of mine, Terry Bowden, who I've known for a long time, said, "Hey, well, what's Rhett going to do? Is he going to, look to transfer?" And I said, "Yeah." And he says, "Why don't his dad come down and coach him?" I'm thinking, you know what? Instead of sitting on my ass, I like to work. I love ball. Maybe it's a great opportunity, kind of write a new story, and it's something that's unique that I go chance to coach my son. And obviously they got some work to do, right? There wouldn't be a new coaching staff if there wasn't, and they got a lot of work to do coming off an 0-10 season. But I'm really excited. The players are excited. The administration here is excited, and we're busy getting to work at ULM, and we'll see what happens.
Coach, whenever you left West Virginia, you went to Michigan. We all, in our locker room, our guys, you know what I mean? We all, by the way, we were a very tight team. And I think that is not something that you can measure or put anything on. If your team comes together, that West Virginia team we had was very tight. But when you went to Michigan, we all knew, like, are the Michigan kids going to be able to handle Rich Rodriguez? Because our locker room, and I think you would probably say this, and anybody that met, we had some dogs in our locker room, right? Like we were guys that were ready to go. And we thought the Michigan thing was always going to be an interesting fit for you. Did you have any of those thoughts going in there? Did you have to change it all? Like, what was it whenever you went up there? Because we had a lot of questions.
Well, that's fair. I didn't visit there. Obviously, you don't talk to the other team and didn't really know a whole lot about it. Other than the Michigan brand and their history and all that. But it was different. I think you come in a little bit, and I wasn't a so-called Michigan man. And so sometimes when I try to do things that I thought were basic to any good program, they looked at me like I had three heads. It's like, geez, what are you doing here? And I think there was some resistance at times initially. But I think eventually, by the third year, we had gotten that out and we were ready to roll. Unfortunately, I didn't get the fourth year to see it through, but it was tough transition, and I missed West Virginia. And there's so much, Pat, that you probably don't even know. And I wish I would have had time before I left. I had a meeting with the players, but I wish I would have had a press conference and explained to the West Virginia fans exactly what the reasons were and why I left. Such a great program to go to Michigan and so on and so forth. And I didn't do that. That was a mistake on my part because I was told, hey, just move on. They'll be okay. And I should have – the fans of West Virginia owed –
Oh, we got to call him back. He was getting ready.
Things, but there was like simple stuff, Pat. Like we were doing pretty good, and we had a new young president, administration, and I didn't ask for any demands for myself personally other than I wanted $50,000 more for an assistant coaches pool because I was losing a lot of good coaches every year. And, I was a great staff. And I thought, okay, $50,000 is something, but that's for the whole staff. That's all I wanted, $50,000 more. I was told, take it or leave it, coach. We've done all we can for you, and that's it. And I'm like, really? And that was it. That was the extent of the conversation. It wasn't like, what
Coach,
else
also with what we were doing for West Virginia. Now, hindsight, I'll look back on this now that I'm in the college football world a little bit more with game day. West Virginia, I mean, we had those plaques on the wall. Thursday night football games on ESPN. We had the highest rating game of the year. Like we were on primetime television every single week. We were winning a lot. And I saw a lot of West Virginia University. I saw a lot of buildings being put up. I saw a lot of classrooms getting redone. I saw attendance go up. I saw everything go up. So I would assume whenever you go like, hey, is there any way we can maybe continue to build this thing for $50,000? You would expect a simple yes there, I would guess, but we didn't know any of that. None of us knew any of that was happening behind the scenes.
I know, and that's probably, where I could maybe explain things. But, when your new employer says, hey, move on, don't talk about it, so on and so forth, you understand that. But how many years it's been? 13, 14 years, and I really haven't explained some of that stuff. So, this is a little bit of an opportunity to do that. But you're right. I remember when ESPN came to me and said, Coach, we would like to play some, not just Thursday, but maybe a Friday night game, a Wednesday night game. I said, you could put us on prime time at any time. Our guys will be ready to play. They'll love it. It didn't care what night of the week it was. It'd be reality TV at its best, right? So we took as many as we could, and it helped us build the program.
There was a couple games, man, that Maryland game. I mean, the Maryland game when Steve popped off for 100 touchdowns after, a week before signing day, they pulled his scholarship. Then obviously every time we got on the prime time with Louisville, it was a hell. I mean, Louisville. We had runs back. I remember how pissed off you were. And I don't know if you were actually pissed off, but you're using it to kind of motivate. And I was one of the only freshmen, by the way, that played, right? Me and Steve were one of the only freshmen that played. So it was kind of an interesting little time there because there was an older class that when you first got there you brought in, right? Jamal Adai in them, I think is that class. That was kind of the senior class there. And then now we were kind of the younger class that we were going to get going. And when Louisville gets brought into the Big East, you used it as Oh, everybody's talking about how Louisville's the new king of the Big East. Like you were, like I remember you not being thrilled about it. And then that first time we played them, what was it? A triple overtime game. We get the win, and that was really, I think, the moment that catapulted us into, like that next tier.
We had what was unique is we had, you talk about a cast of characters, not just yourself, but there were a lot of guys that maybe were a little bit overlooked or somehow fell under the radar or developed a different way. The Owen Smiths of the world, who was probably the best fullback in college football. I know there wasn't a lot of fullbacks at the time, but what a great story these guys all were. And it was just, for me, I probably have not said it enough how much I appreciate the effort, because you guys worked your ass off.
Oh, yeah.
With Barvis in the weight room and what you did in the summer, I'm so appreciative of the effort the guys gave. And I just assume, Pat, no matter where you go, everybody works like that. But it doesn't do that all the time until you're there and build that culture. Once you build that culture, like Alabama has now, where everybody works that way, it sometimes takes a little time.
I talked about that yesterday with how Devontae Smith has had to sit behind two superstars, and instead of transferring, Alabama has this culture where they're like, no, you're going to compete. Okay, you're going to compete here, and then whenever it's your time to get on the field, you're going to go. Okay, like that. This is how it's going to work, and they'll be able to do that forever, by the way, if they want to. Now that it's been established, like that culture is something you can't really have. Our culture was one where I feel like. That had to have been the most blue-collar team you've ever been around. We had to have, legitimately had to have been.
Yeah, it's like you want to say, whoa, not sick them, right? And I've always said that. Well, these guys got to the point where they were ready to do it. Not that they wanted to run up that damn hill, law school hill all the time and do all the drills that Barris was going through. But, you weren't adverse to hard work, and you weren't adverse to adversity. And I think there was a bond by doing that where you had a little chip on your shoulder saying, like, we're little old West Virginia, and we're going to come and whip your ass, and that's no matter where we're at and who we're at. And, it's like the Sugar Bowl in Georgia. I remember that. We couldn't wait to play Georgia in the Sugar Bowl because everybody was talking about little West Virginia from the Big East. You got the SEC champs. And then like 2 nights before then, in the same place we were playing in Atlanta, LSU had destroyed Miami or somebody in that game. And everybody's talking about SEC. And they're good. They were good. But I said, I think we got a sneaky little good team too, and they'll be ready to prove themselves.
We had a hell of a time that week, and I'm sure you've been told the stories now by now that you've kind of left. We were very loose that week. Our team, there was not a lot of worry from many of our team, and it might have been because we were too young at the time. We were freshmen based. Most of us were freshmen. Yeah. Now there was seniors, obviously legendary seniors, Dan Moses and the boys. Like there was those types of guys, but the freshmen, I don't think we even had a clue what was going on. We go to that Peach Bowl. Remember, they had us go watch that game. We got tickets to that whole game, and there was SEC, and then there was dog fans barking at us on the street whenever we were walking around. And it was just like our whole team was like, oh, get the fuck out of our face. Like it was literally like that the whole week. And then we go out and get that win. And I remember after the game, we did a bunch of chants. Like there was a bunch of chants and everybody was all in. And we had a Big East chant that we radiated through the whole thing. And it just so happened to be, I think the cameras were live on there. And it was I can't believe the Big East got taken away, man. We had such a good conference up there, Rich. Such a good conference going on.
And I was in, obviously I was in that league when it was coming apart. And the problem with the Big East at the time is it was already fractured. It had football schools, basketball schools, and Notre Dame. And everybody's going to fight for their own agenda from the school standpoint. And so when the conferences started to implode a little bit, I told our administration, we better find something in a hurry because we're going to be left standing with nothing at the Big East. And so trying to get in the ACC and the Big Ten, which would probably been a more natural geographic fit, didn't happen. And so I think then I left. So I think that's why they had to go to the Big 12. But West Virginia's got so much to offer. I don't care about how many TV eyeballs are on there. The West Virginia brand, the West Virginia fans, the importance of football in that state, and I think it has a lot to offer to everybody.
Hey, and you built that, dude. Like that has to feel pretty cool.
Well, you built that. I mean, the players we were getting, and sometimes you get, it bothers me to say, well, you got a bunch of blue-collar players, and, they develop well. I mean, these guys are talented now, too. Now, they weren't just blue collar guys that work hard. I mean, Pat McAfee's crazy nuthead, and I love him as a personality. But if his ass couldn't kick or punt, I wouldn't have had him on the team. I mean, I love you, Pat, but I had you on the team because selfishly, I knew you're pretty damn good.
Did you have to, like, you coached hard? You coached us hard. We were coached hard. By the way, this is just like whenever people talk about Tom Brady up in New England, like Tom had to give the okay, right, for Bill to coach him in front of the team meeting and yell at him and kind of so everybody kind of sets the standard. I'm not sure there's a lot of coaches in 2021 going into 2022 that still coach hard just because of the new genre of human, the new way things kind of go. With your son obviously being on the team, how do you balance that? Are you still, hey, your piss is still hot? No way your piss is still hot the entire, from period one.
It is. You
way.
Can ask Rhett, my son. He'll still, the difference when Rhett is so smart, he's more mature than I am too. I mean, I'll yell at him, and a lot of guys will give you that look like, oh God. I yell at Rhett, and he just smiles at me. So he already knows it's coming. And so he gets it. But I think here's the difference, Pat. I'll tell you what the difference between 20 years ago and now. 20 years ago, you get on a guy and tell him to do something. Okay, coach, I'll do it. Now they'll still do it, but they want to know why. And if you tell them the wrong reason, they'll Google it up and say, nope, coach, that ain't what it says on Google. Or some shit. So they're smarter nowadays. You can't fool them. So I still think guys want to be coached at all levels. And if they know that you can help them be the best version of themselves, if they know you can help them have success, then you can get through to them and be okay. I tell them, I'm a louder guy a little bit. I know you've kind of made fun of me that way. You're right. I like to yell a little bit. I won't yell long, but when I do, I just try to get their attention, get it corrected, and let's move on.
And it's impressive. Hey, the way you put words together too, so just succinct. It was art. It was fucking art. We used to go back home, to our houses after practice and things like that, and we would,
you know, the house where you had like just to get together. You weren't having a party. Was that the one you're talking about where the police got called?
No.
I would never party at my house.
No. The team camaraderie building barbecue.
Yep.
That's the biggest bunch of bullshit I've ever seen.
It was, he just hung up. Hopefully his number wasn't on. It wasn't. Okay, good news. Man, he's awesome, dude.
Jeez.
Yeah. I'll tell you, whenever he would yell, though, sometimes he would just like look and yell and then like look back away. He was out of a movie, dude. It was, we go back to the house that he was referring to there, and teammates would come over or whatever. And I was going to say, we'd sometimes smoke a little CBD or whatever, and we would talk about what you said during the day. Hey, coach, you kind of dropped off there. And I don't know who was calling you. Maybe that was ULM saying, get the hell off the show. But I appreciate you for joining us. What I was telling you is you would have a hell of a practice, okay? It was a day where you wanted to set the tone and somebody was fucking up or whatever. You would have a hell of a practice. And at night, obviously, we'd all be miserable during it because, normally that involves some Barwish shit too if you didn't like what was going on. It was like, okay, there's a tag team coming here. If things aren't going well, we're going to do this or whatever, We would go home at night and the duplex where the neighbor was having a party, and I just so happened.
The neighbor's place.
Yeah.
I got you. Yeah.
By the way, you remember.
Being neighborly, that's right. You just be neighborly, saying hello.
Hey, what type of representative would I be of the Mountaineers if I didn't go and say hello to the gathering that was happening right next door to my house? That'd be rude if you.
Take 10 of your teammates with you. 10. And have the police come just to make sure everything is good. Everything's good.
Gotta do it.
Coach, I would like to break some news to you. That meeting the next day, the emergency meeting the next morning after, a couple guys who were very talented and very good got arrested. In a very unfortunate, which by the way was not at my house or the neighbor's house. That was elsewhere. But the emergency meeting that happened the next morning, I knew it was not good. Okay, so not good. Teammate comes in, wakes me up. I'm on the couch. They wake me up. They're like, "We got a meeting." I was like, "When?" They're like, "Right now." I'm like, "I thought we weren't supposed to be until noon." They're like, "Emergency meeting. Check your phone or whatever." I'm like, "Oh fuck!" So I didn't know what had happened. Right, I just woke up, so I didn't even know what had happened yet. I go in and. Obviously, we go into the meeting, and Coach Stewart, rest in peace, by the way, what a legend of a man. He calls me over before we get in the team meeting. He goes, "Where were you last night, Patrick?" And I go, "I was at my house." I was at my house. He was like, you were at your house last night at 11:30, midnight, after curfew? I was like, I was at my house. You can ask anybody. I was at my house. And he was like, all right, somebody is going to get in some shit. I just want to let you know, good luck in there, basically, is what Coach Stu said to me. And we go in there, and you had that meeting, and you had the seniors stand up. Do you remember you had the seniors stand up? And then you had the GAs were all standing up too, the coaches were standing up, and you were like, whenever you're making these decisions, you're fucking these guys, final round or whatever. All those dudes were at the party. Every single one of them. The GAs.
Now I found the truth. They lied to me.
All the coaches were there too. Even the police that escorted you during games, they were at they were the ones that were actually putting. That was, hey, I know a lot of bad things happened afterwards, but when you talk about like pretty monumental parties, I think, in the history of Morgantown, we had a rapper performing in the front yard at like midnight. The cops shut down the block. I mean, it was amazing.
Pat, you're expecting all your listeners and your crew there to believe you can't piss down my back and tell me. Keep selling that story, brother. Keep selling it.
All right. Well, I mean,
better every year.
It was that party was fucking awesome. But, and I forget exactly what I was going to go to because we got into that. But did you, the year before you went to Michigan, you almost went to Alabama, and it was on ESPN. It was on ESPN, the whole thing. They had your face on there. I think they even had the old Bear Bryant hat on your head at one point on ESPN, you know. When you
listen, I'm partly responsible for Alabama winning 6 national championships in the last 13 years. Because I didn't go, and they hired Nick Saban, the greatest of all time. But no, it was, I didn't. It was a unique opportunity. Obviously, like, how stupid is this guy, right? But I knew what we had coming back at West Virginia, and at the time, West Virginia, we were better than them. Now, obviously, what Nick has done there is just second to none. But you know, that wasn't an easy decision, certainly, because Alabama's Alabama. But
how close
I didn't
were you?
Look back at it twice.
How close were you? Real question, because I think the rumors that got to the players about that, because we had a meeting that morning as well after the ESPN thing. We had a meeting that you called team meeting or whatever, and we were going in there. We assumed it was about the thing we saw on ESPN last night, and then you come in there, okay? You bring your family in there, and you're up in the front, and there's media in there. And you like took your time for a little bit, and it was basically like Leonardo DiCaprio in Wolf of Wall Street. Like, I'm not leaving. Basically, it was like one of those situations. It really was. And I remember all of us looking around, going like, "What the fuck just happened?" And then the meeting was. You cut the meeting. It was basically just like that. And we were all just like, what the hell? We have no idea what just happened. I think we went to either lunch or a workout. And then there was a bunch of rumors that that we were being told. And obviously, once something starts in a locker room, it just goes. So who knows who brought it in? But the rumor was you didn't know if you wanted to take the Alabama job or not while you were coming into the meet, like maybe an hour before the meeting.
Yeah, this ain't just so much drama bullshit.
Yeah, it was awesome. I want to let you know when it was going around, it was awesome because I thought about you going.
Yes.
I thought
so
about
much drama. It was just.
Hold on, Coach.
I was off for the job.
Coach, hold on. I thought of you. Okay, like walking into that team meeting, just being like, "Fucking, I'm staying here." Like, you know what I mean? Like that massive of a decision. Like that. That was what we started doing. Like we were like, imagine Coach or Rich Rod just walking in and going, "All right, I'm fucking staying." And then going up there, like we thought you were like that savage of a dude to do that. Was that? That's not.
I should have. Yeah, if I would have thought of that, I would have.
Was it close though? How close?
No, it was. I had a couple meetings with them. I had a meeting with them in New York. They had offered the job, but I said, "Listen, I never told them I was coming. I never hinted that I was coming, and how that got out there, who knows? But certainly, when I got back to West Virginia, we had some, a lot of people that said, Coach, we're going to step up even more because I wanted some facilities improvements, stuff for the staff, and some promises were made. And I'm like, this is great. And so, I didn't go there, and most of the things that they promised, some of them they did, but a year later, some of the things that were promised weren't done. But nonetheless, I didn't regret it at all at the time, and I was glad to be able to be with you guys one more year.
Did you think at all whenever the Michigan job came, because of how it ended there with 13-9? I mean, I had worst game of my life. It was not a good – worst night of my life probably.
In that game, it just pisses us all off because people say, I mean, we didn't play well. I didn't coach well. It was the worst night of my football life. But that had nothing to do at all with any coaching decisions, certainly not the Michigan thing. So that pisses me off when people say, well, if anything else, I wanted to come back and win a national championship to prove that.
Well, that's what I wanted to say though. Was there ever a thought like, you know what? I got a guy still in Pat. Who knows if Steve's coming back, but we got Noel coming back. Like we still got we got to.
That was a huge part of it. That's why I was so torn. And had been like the things that was promised the year before, had they delivered all of that like they said,
yeah,
and the $50,000 for the system, have they not just this young new administration when it just dismissed it and said, listen, we've done all we can for you, take it or leave it. I'm like, I'm trying to win a national championship here. And what I'm fighting for obviously helps me, but more than anything, it helps our program. It helps West Virginia. And so that was the frustrating part about all that. You're right. I think the program was in good shape for sure when we left.
As somebody who, if somebody disrespects me, I will hold it against them forever. I could see how whenever you're told something's going to happen and we continue to produce the way we produce. I mean, that's the golden era of Mountaineer football. I mean, Pat won 5 bowl games if you count the Senior Bowl, 2 of them being BCS games. I mean, it's just that run there. I could see how like here we are on January 13th, 2021, and I think I fully understand why you wanted to slap him in the mouth and say, I'm out of here. And also it's Michigan, too. I mean, there's billionaires that are just strolling out of cafes up there. I mean, that's a whole different world.
But, that was a frustrating part because we had built it. I said everybody, the players, coaches, staff, the fans, all have built it to this point. And I would have taken one more step so not only could we win it, but we could stay there where we were at because we were in a pretty good
spot.
My gosh, so that was disheartening a little bit. That wasn't the only reason, but that was the main reason why I'm like, okay, gosh, Michigan's got a brand name. I'll just take that same kind of culture and bring it there. And then again, that culture took a couple of years to take hold and didn't have enough time to finish it. But nonetheless, it was a move you make and you live and move on. And now I'm at a point where it's I get an opportunity to coach my son. My daughter and I are doing podcasts, which you got to come be up visit on the Hard Edge Football Podcast.
Would love to
get to coach and ball a little bit.
You the final thing before I can't thank you enough for your time here, man. I really look forward to this, and I didn't know which time when it should happen. You getting a new job, I think it was just the perfect timing. So I appreciate you doing this. Your offense, Hal Mummy had the air raid offense, right? He's the father of the air raid offense. The spread offense, though, that is all over college and the NFL right now. Now, granted, there are air raid pieces in the NFL, but there's a lot of spread. That's kind of like, I don't want to speak out of pocket here, but were you one of the founders of that? Was that your offense? How is what you're seeing right now all over the place, you think has been influenced by an offense you created at, I forget what small school it was.
It's at Glenville State. They say that necessity is the mother of invention. Well, 30 years ago or 25 years ago, and I was coach at Glenville State, it was a perfect job to take because they were 0-10 year before we got there and got shut out 7 times. And so we get a first down and got a standing ovation. I'm like, shit, this is the best place in the world. So at the time, I'm like, okay, blank slate, what are we going to do? And I always, as a defense, I was a defensive guy before then. I'm like, okay, I'm going to coach offense. What's the hardest offense to defend? It always seemed like anytime somebody went in their 2-minute drill, they would go up and down the field. I'm like, why don't they do that the whole game, right? So I thought, okay, Glenville, we're going to be something unique. We're going to go no huddle, shotgun, and then go 2-minute drill the whole game. And that was the birth of this type of offense. Then the zone read came a couple years into that, some of the other stuff that we're doing. And here 25 years later, we've tweaked it a lot. We've done some different stuff, but the base of it started out of necessity at Glenville State. And it's been neat. The NFL was the slowest to change, to get guys in the gun, do some athletic quarterback type of stuff, some zone read stuff. But now you see it both on Saturdays and Sundays, which is kind of neat.
Well, ULM 0-10. I'm assuming they did get shut out a couple times. Can't wait to see the standing O you get down there. Thanks for joining us, Coach. I appreciate you.
Thanks, Pat. Keep it touch. Appreciate it. Proud of you, bud.
Hey. Go dominate down there. Appreciate you. Ladies and gentlemen, Coach Rodriguez. His cops were not at the party.
No, they are. Showed up later.
He was right. The cops were not at the party.
Did he ever get tossed from a game or no?
Who, him?
Yeah.
I don't know how. He almost, oh, fuck. He almost fought. There was a guy down at USF who used to run sprints before the game. The Bulls. blonde-haired guy. I forget his name. Anyway, I think him and Coach Rod potentially had a couple moments where we thought they were going to fight. We were pumped.
Yeah.
We're because I think the guy was a pretty big guy and he did some stuff. I don't know if they ever did, or if we were just misreading the situation. But there were some exchanged words, if you know what I'm talking about. Whenever and we're like, oh my God, this guy has no idea. Rich Rod is about to pummel him. Rod's on the goddamn stair stepper every single morning, like 5:30 a.m., just going his height, maybe 2 Eiffel Towers, and then coming back down. He was a very, very intense guy.
Yeah.
But he is hysterical. If you can add hilarity with intensity, that's what practices were. And there were some moments where you're scared to death, like what's going on. But then whenever you recount it, it's like, oh my God, that was one of the most brilliant things I've ever heard said at that moment. What's up?
Maybe Jim Levitt was the coach down there.
Yeah. Was he younger whenever we were there?
At the time, yeah, and he wore the visor with the spiky hair out of the top.
Blonde hair, yeah. I believe him and Coach had a couple. And then him and, rest in peace, I believe, Maryland coach, Ralph
Friedgen.
Friedgen.
Yeah.
I believe they had a hilarious interaction as well after one game.
So those are both after the game they almost fought? Or
Yeah. I don't know if they're after or before. The Ralph one, I think, was after. The Levitt one was maybe before. I forget. But obviously, whenever you're winning a bunch,
Yeah.
and you know what I mean? Like, there's teams that are not going to be exactly thrilled with you. Especially, I don't know how, I would love to hear what Coach Rod says to other coaches, by the way, because he probably drops a chest shit talk in the middle of, if I had to guess.
To a ref, even.
Yeah. Are you kidding me?
It's wild that he's talking about that West Virginia wouldn't give him $50,000 for his coaches.
All of them.
Yeah.
Not one coach.
I looked it up.
That is
Alabama's
crazy.
coaching staff between all of them is $7.75 million. But AJ just talked about it the other day how Fickle's losing his coaching staff because of bigger schools are offering to pay them more money. Rich Rod, West Virginia, Fickle, Cincinnati seems like it's a very similar situation there.
We always heard that there was like very similar, by the way. And watching those Cincinnati teams, I think that is why I was so kin to them, because it felt like they were kind of like us. You know what I mean? And by the way, our first game against the SEC was Georgia in a bowl game. Now, granted, ours was a BCS game. This one was not. So I saw them winning that game. It's like, okay, here we go. This is literally the exact same squad. Got an athletic quarterback who's very good. It seems to have a defense that hums a little bit. They seem to like each other a lot. And Fickle's a great head coach. And then, hey, don't let history repeat itself, Bearcats.
Yeah.
You're all Cincinnati's got. The Bengals stink. Come on.
True.
Fucking sub them out, dude. Get them some money down there.
So you didn't know about that $50,000 thing?
No,
That
we had
was
no
news
idea.
to you?
We heard that there was a potential conversation behind the scenes with him and either the athletic director or the president, but I didn't know that it was just that. Like, I had no idea it was like that.
Wow.
But the only thing we had was we had a hell of a fucking team who had still another year. Like, you know what I mean? We had another year. So a lot of us were like, no matter what was happening behind the scenes, you have to come back. But now that I'm an adult, like, if I was just, hey, listen, I just put your fucking university, okay? I put this university, the school that I went to, on the goddamn map. I would like to help out the boys a little bit. I would like to do some other things. They're like, we've done all we can. It's like, hey, fuck you. How about that? How about
If you think about 50K is what, 2 kids' tuitions or maybe 1/4 of ticket sales at a game?
Or, by the way, you can just, fake the admission price just for 1 year, and it's probably one person.
I was gonna say, I feel like finding $50K really isn't that difficult in the college football program, especially one that's winning BCS bowl games.
And I'd assume that he could. So I think that's why Rich Rod was like, you could do this.
Yeah.
You're choosing not to. Is this how this is going to be forever? And Michigan goes, but boy, we were confused. I was like, bro, come on, bro. I'm getting death threats right now. Can we come back and win this thing?